Hello and welcome to Drunk on Tea. I recently attended a local Wargames show in Exeter, which is an event put on by the Exmouth Wargames Club, where local traders had stalls and Warlord Games brought along a pop-up store, as well as local gaming clubs putting on exhibition and participation games of various different historic, fantasy and sci-fi games. Although a lot of the local stores that had stands were selling 40k in Age of Sigmar, the event in general doesn't have a lot of GW, focusing instead on independent products and games that aren't in the GW sphere of influence. There were games of Bolt Action and Frostgrave, but also lesser known games like Nevermind the Matchlocks, Brethren, Don't Look Back, Rapid Fire, and Heroic Battles of Daring Do. As with a lot of these events, the hobby hall potential is huge, and I'm going to show you what I ended up coming home with. The bring and buy table at this event is always a great place to find some bargains. This year wasn't as great as some years for me, or perhaps I just arrived a bit later and the true classic minis had already been snapped up. But across the trade stalls and the bring and buy table, this is my haul from Exeter Legionary 2026. Starting with the standard stuff, I picked up a can of Chaos Black spray paint. I always need more cans for priming minis, and I often use black, so another can wouldn't go amiss. This was pretty cheap at £10 for a can. The store were also selling Colourforge rattle cans, but they were £12 each, which is still a decent price, but it's rare to get a can of Chaos Black for a tenner these days, so I thought I'd pick up another while I was here. Next up is a set of brushes. These were £10 I think. I've used basically the same set before for laying down base coats. This comes with some more dry brushes, which are always welcome. This is just a set of cheap synthetics. I'll use them for rough work when I don't want to damage my sable hair brushes. From what I remember, these brushes were fine and lasted for quite a while before I needed to throw them away. As anyone who paints a lot of models knows, you can never have too many brushes laying around, so expect to see these popping up in future painting videos from time to time. I've also picked up these Fire Slayer Hearthguard. Unfortunately, painting videos that aren't 40k never do as well, but they look like they could be fun to paint, and I always like painting dwarves. These were picked up from another local store that had a stall, so they were the usual discount of buying from third-party retailers, and I bought them just because I thought they would give me options for some future videos. I could do some about painting different skin tones, or just an in-depth video about painting skin, as there's so much exposed skin on these models. Or I could paint them in alternative colour schemes. There are so many options, it seemed like a good idea to pick some up. If you can think of anything you'd like to see me do with these Fire Slayers, please let me know in the comments. I've also picked up these Chaos Warriors from the same stall. Chaos was my first army back in 4th edition Fantasy, so I've always had a soft spot for Chaos Warriors. This is another purchase that I was thinking about future video possibilities. After painting the classic monopose Chaos Warrior recently, I could see how the modern one compares, or try and paint the new models in the old colour scheme. Much like with the dwarves, if you can think of something you would like to see me do with these, please let me know in the comments. From the Warlord Games pop-up, I got this Der Untermann model for Conflict 47. In full transparency, I was given this model for free. I was speaking to the guy running the stand, and I said I was looking for some interesting models to paint for YouTube, and he gave me this one. So this one will be appearing on the channel later on. I have a friend who plays Conflict 47, and it seems like a really interesting concept for a game. Alternative history, where demons and crazy mechs are around at the end of World War II, and the gameplay seems like it could be interesting as well. So I was genuinely interested in picking some up anyway, but being given this one is a bonus. The model looks really cool, with the mad scientist in a spider-like mech bot contraption to get around as he conducts experiments on the zombies and casualties of the battlefield. I'm looking forward to painting this one, and hopefully trying out the game at some point. New IPs and settings are always a good thing for the hobby. From another local seller, I picked up this box of Cowboys for Dead Man's Hand. This is another game I've never played, but I thought some cowboys could be fun to paint on the channel. The starter set for the game had already sold out, otherwise I would have picked that up, but this box of Cowboys was about £15, and even if I don't play the proper game, I have been meaning to play Legends of the Old West, which is an old Warhammer Historicals game, played using a version of the Middle-earth rules, which are GW's best rule set, and uses cowboy minis, so these could work for that. The models themselves are these metal models and look quite detailed. There are some casting issues and some quite noticeable mould lines on the models, but I've worked with enough metal minis over the years that clean-up on these won't be a problem. As metal models are becoming rarer and rarer these days, as companies switch to resin or plastic, some people newer to the hobby may not have dealt with metal minis as much, so if you would like a video on how to work with, clean up and prepare metal minis for painting, let me know and I'll happily make one, as you never know when you may get some classic models and find one of these in there. From the bring and buy table, I only picked up a couple of things. The first is this box of elves for the Middle-earth strategy battle game. This was a bargain. The box was £2, so although I don't play elves, I thought it would be good to have some, especially if I decide to do a Last Alliance army at some point. As you can see, they are in various states of painted, some are unpainted, and some appear to have been painted straight onto the plastic. The models themselves are fine, there doesn't appear to be any broken parts to them. Removing any old paint shouldn't be a problem. If you want a video on removing old paint, let me know, because these will need it done to them, as the old paint is pretty thick and peeling or chipping off in parts, so I will need to clean them up rather than just paint over the old paint. Even with a bit of clean-up work though, 17 elves for £2 is a bargain. And finally, I picked up this bag of classic Necromunda House Delac gangers. At £40, this was the most expensive thing I bought, but these models are getting hard to find, especially unpainted. These metal Necromunda gangs, being played on the cardboard terrain that was used, is a fond memory of my childhood, so when I saw these, I just couldn't resist picking them up. I've painted one of the newer House Delac models in a video from a few years ago, so I could compare the old with the new, or paint these models up in a retro style, or update them to the modern style. There are so many possibilities from a bag of second-hand models. These models are a great trip down memory lane, and there is something about the weight of a metal model that you just don't get with modern plastics. The old gangs also came with juves, which aren't in the current game. I can see why it could be a bit problematic today, but these were younger gang members with much weaker stats, but they were very cheap to hire. If they could survive enough games to earn enough experience, they would have eventually become regular gangers, so it was an interesting mechanic that's gone from the game. But I don't ever remember a lot of juves lasting enough games to become gangers. The sculpting on all of these guys is great. There are a few mould lines to clean up and bits to file, but none of the casts were perfect when these came out. It could be nostalgia, but I do really like these old models, with the oversized proportions because they were hand sculpted. Modern models are objectively better looking, with crisper details, but there is a charm to old minis, with some slightly derpy faces sometimes, but a much simpler design. I don't know what happened to this mini, if somehow the metal has tarnished, or maybe a cup of coffee, or an old shade paint has been spilt all over it, but this won't affect the model at all once it's been primed and painted. But I've never seen a metal model with this extra coloration to them before. And that's my haul from Exeter Legionary show. Some things will appear in future videos, and some will be added to my collection. It was a good couple of hours looking at other game systems, talking to other gamers, and a nice reminder that there was a lot more to this hobby than just 40k. 40k is a great game with great lore, but sometimes it seems to dominate the hobby space so much, it's easy to forget just how many other games and minis there are out there. Historicals from any period you can imagine, a swathe of World War II games, as well as other fantasy and sci-fi and even horror games. The world of tabletop gaming has never been as broad and open. So if you see a local wargame show pop along, you may be able to pick up some bargains, meet some other players, and maybe find a new game to play as well. Or maybe I'll see you at Exeter Legionary 2027. Remember to let me know in the comments what models you would like to see on the channel. Thank you very much for watching, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to see these minis get painted. And happy wargaming.